Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Terrence's World. And guys, it's Christmas. It's Christmas in March. And that's because Selection Sunday has happened. It's March Madness season. And we're going to be doing my full bracket breakdown. So the way that this is going to work, this bracket is going to be my podcast one because my other ones, I'm going to change them a ton. There's no way I'm not going to touch them before Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whatever. So for this one these are gonna be my like general picks, and I'm going to just leave it. That's all this is. So we'll see how this does at the end of the year, end of the month, basically. But we're gonna jump right into it. Basically, like I said, this is the way this is gonna work. I'm just gonna go down through all of these. I'm gonna make my picks, go round by round, do all of them, and I'll eventually get to my champion. It'll probably end up like a bunch of my other brackets because I think I know my champion or who they're gonna be. But let's jump right into it. Start off with the 116 Auburn versus is it Alabama State, or I'm forgetting the other one. I'm taking out Auburn. That's easy. Here we go, though. First game of the entire tournament, Louisville Creighton, and they just jump right into this one. And I love both these teams. I think Louisville was underseeded, but I do think Creighton's really good and has a lot of potential. Like, you got guys like Ryan Kalkbrenner. They have Ryan Kalkbrenner. Best center, best player in the Big East, in my opinion. One of, if not the best centers in the entire country. And one of the things that really stands out about this game, Louisville was underseeded, like just guaranteed underseeded. They should have been a six seed, in my opinion. I mean, it's crazy that an AP top 10 team was ranked as an eight seed. I mean, their only crime, they rolled through the ACC. Their only crime was that they lost to Duke, and they're somehow an eight seed. I would have replaced them a lot higher in this. I'm trying to think of for who, but I think Louisville and BYU, which I'll get into later, criminally underseeded. Another thing about this game, it's in Lexington, Kentucky. It's not far from Louisville. I forget the exact distance, but it's not far. And I'm going to take Louisville. And I'll get into later because this matchup right here is super tough for me. Moving on to the next one. This is a really tough one. And I'm going to take UCSD because Michigan turns the ball over one of the most in the country, and they're playing the team with the best turnover margin in UCSD. It was a pretty, Michigan's obviously they're red hot off that Big Ten championship. The Tritons feel better. The Tritons feel hotter. And it just feels like Michigan's weakness will be exploited. So I'm taking them. Another tough one. Another tough 4-13 for like a double digit C to single. And I'm taking the Bulldogs of Yale. It just feels too perfect that they get another SEC team who's at that four seed in a team in Texas A&M who's been struggling. They beat Auburn and since then have not looked that great. Yale is a super solid team. They don't do anything particularly great or particularly bad. And I'm taking Yale. So in my second round, I have a 12 versus 13 matching up. That's happened a decent amount this past couple of years, and I think that one's it. Ole Miss versus the winner of San Diego State and North Carolina. North Carolina should not be in this game at all. I don't think Xavier should be either, but it should be Indiana and West Virginia. West Virginia should be a 10 seed in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. This is the matchup we have. I think SDSU will win that first four game, and after that, I don't really think it's going to matter. They obviously beat Houston earlier in the year. Don't think it matters. I'm taking Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a solid team that's really tough for me coming down the stretch. Next up, we have Iowa State versus Lipscomb. And I'm taking the Cyclones. This one's just pretty no-brainer for me. I'm a big TJ Olsterberger guy, the head coach. They're obviously without one of their starters. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. Williams. Last name. But still got a lot of guys. Milos Oots. No, that's from Houston. Milos something. It's something Eastern European. And then Taman Lipsey, one of the best guards in the Big 12. So I'm taking Iowa State pretty easily. I love the way they play defense. I like Olsterberger as a coach. I think he'd be decent at Indiana for their next head coach replacement, but I don't think he'll leave. Ames. 7-10 matchup, and I've gone back and forth a lot on this, but I got a ride with my dogs, the Lobos, New Mexico. I've been a big fan of them all year, as you'll probably know. But Marquette, in my opinion, is just I'm not a fan of Shaka Smart as a coach. I just feel like he always has talented teams, never goes anywhere in March. It just that's the way it feels. So I would have taken I think anyone over Marquette, no matter the matchup. It would depend, obviously, but I think I'm taking New Mexico no matter what. Moving on. Michigan State versus Bryant. It's another the 15, the 116, 215 are too impossible to predict. So I'm taking Michigan State. It's either it's January, February, Izzo. That's how it is. Izzo is March Madness. That's a no. I'm just taking that. I'll get into them what I think of them later. But moving on to the West region, Florida, Norfolk State. Once again, I'm taking the one. I'm taking all the ones. I'm taking all the 15s in the first round. That's all it is. UConn, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, criminally overrated. A lot of the SEC. There's no way the team who finished 14th in conference. I want to say they went 6-14 in conference play. Maybe it was a little less than that. Maybe it was maybe 6-10, 6-12, whatever it was. No way they deserve to be a 9 seed. They were in one of my, it was a couple weeks ago, but I would have stayed with it in the first four, maybe last four in, something like that. Same thing. But I'm taking UConn. Still a better team. I don't like Dan Hurley. I don't love them at all, but I think they're a better team, talent-wise, better coached, obviously. So I'm taking UConn. Another really tough game, Memphis, Colorado State. Colorado State, one of the hottest teams in the country, has won 10 in a row. I mean, but Memphis has one of the best scorers in the country, and PJ Haggerty, a guy who can give you 25 on a nightly basis. Especially, that's really important in games like this. It's so tough, but I gotta ride Colorado State. I gotta ride with the Rams. I like the Mountain West a lot, but I'm not. No one's gonna go past the second round. But it feels like the gap is a lot closer than people might think for Memphis. They've had a they had a pretty hard out of conference schedule and rolled through the AAC, but I got to ride with Colorado State. Big one, not really big one. Grand Canyon, one of the quickest teams in college basketball versus Maryland, best starting lineup in college basketball, and I'm taking the Terps. I love Maryland. I think they're criminally underrated, and if they were not in this bracket, this specific in the West, I would have them in the Final Four guaranteed. Maybe not over Duke. I think that's the only one I wouldn't put them over for sure. But I really like them, and it sucks that they would maybe get Florida, who I really like in the Sweet 16, excuse me. Missouri Drake, tough one, really tough one. And I'm gonna take Drake, but yeah, I'm gonna take Drake. This could go either way. This is really 50-50. Drake is a slower pace team, but they're so well coached. A lot of experience at the D2 level, coaching and player wise. They've been in tournaments before. They've been in these single elimination games. Obviously, it's a different scale, but I think I got to ride with the Bulldogs. Just once again, Drake is always here as like a solid upset pick that you can take. So I'm going to ride with the Bulldogs. I'm taking Texas Tech over UNC Wilmington. Love Texas Tech. JT Toppin, one of the best players in the Big 12. They shoot the ball pretty well. They pass it really well. I like the Red Raiders a lot. Kansas, Arkansas. Really, really tough one. I'm going to take Arkansas because I kind of think Kansas is completely cratered this season. Arkansas, it's been tough in the SEC for them, but they've been without Boogie Fland, and he's coming back. One of their best players is coming back for the NCAA tournament. Obviously, he'll be a little rusty, but that's big. That's really big that he's coming back, and because of that, I think that gives Arkansas a little more energy compared to Kansas, who's just been dead in the water for like the longest time now. It's just like it's not normal to see Kansas as a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I'm taking Arkansas. St. John's Omaha already explained. I'd love to see the trash can beaters in the second round, but that St. John's defense is way too good, and I don't have anything else to say about it. Also, obviously, phenomenally coached Rick Pitino. Moving on to the East. I'm taking Duke. I'm once again, I'm not going to explain the 16-1s, 15-12s that much. Mississippi State Baylor. I'm going to take Mississippi State, or excuse me, Baylor, because I would like to see a Jeremy Roach revenge game. I think that would be awesome. That'd be super fun. Mississippi State will put up a great fight though, but I do think Baylor, they should be a lot better. They have great guards, VJ Edgecombe as well, and obviously Scott Foster, great coach. Yeah, I'm taking Baylor, and I'm not going to look back at that. Oregon Liberty, taking the Ducks. Dane Altman, one of the best coaches in March. I saw a statistic, talked about it last week. Oregon has won, it's the most games since I think 2010 in March, which is insane compared to the other programs like Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. And that's because Dane Altman, in the words of John Rothstein, His name is Dane Altman, and he aligns Rubik's cubes. Dane Altman is a phenomenal coach in March. This is another team where I wish they were in a different bracket because I could put them in the Final Four, but they will face Duke in the Sweet 16 if they make it there. But we'll get there when we get there. Moving on to Arizona and Akron. The Zips are some of the hot or one of the hottest teams in the country. Obviously won the MAC. And Arizona, obviously they lost the Big 12 championship. I'm gonna take them, but it's tough. I haven't thought about this game too much, but I do think Arizona is the better team. Like I do agree with that. And I think Akron might be a tad overrated in some people's metrics just because they have won a lot of games, but they're not winning great games. So I'm taking Arizona. BYU and VCU. Super tough one. Another team that was underseeded, BYU. And I'm gonna take BYU, the Cougars. I'm taking a lot of upsets. I'm taking BYU. I wish they were a 4 or 5 somewhere else. They deserve to be. Them and Louisville got screwed over senior wise because VCU's really talented and they could totally cause some damage there. God, I might take VCU. I'm gonna take VCU. No, I gotta ride with BYU. They've been my team. They not my team, but I've been a fan of them for too long to just switch up now. Wisconsin, Montana. I'm taking Wisconsin. This is not a Wisconsin team that people are used to, where it's a bunch of tall white guys who stand around and set screens. They are incredibly good. They shoot the ball well. Even it's incredible how well they did, despite AJ Storr and what's his name, Chucky Hepburn leaving. It's incredible how good they've been, and I think they're probably the third best team in the Big Ten. I actually don't really think that Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten. Obviously, they won, and credit to them. They were a great team. I just think talent-wise, they obviously had a great run, but I think Wisconsin's better than them. And it was tough for them towards the end there, but I think Wisconsin's better. St. Mary's Vanderbilt. I'm taking Vanderbilt. I really don't like WCCC. Actually, I'm not going to say that because we'll get to my Gonzaga in a bit. St. Mary's. Maybe I should bet on them in the first. I'm going to take St. Mary's. I'm going to take St. Mary's. I'm taking that back. It's tough with them. They have another really slow pace of play. We'll get into that in the round of 32. But they win. They usually find a way to win these first round games. And then they face a more talented team and get throttled. I'm taking Alabama over Robert Morris. No explanation needed. I'm taking Houston over Southern Indiana. Is it Indiana or Illinois? I think it's Indiana. Um, no explanation needed. Gonzaga, Georgia. Georgia overranked team. They should not have been a 9. They should have been a 10 or an 11 seed. It's a good team, a lot of talent, guys like Asa Newell. Um, but I think Gonzaga, it's a better coach team. They have so much more talent. This is a team that on paper should be a top 4 seed, and just it didn't fall that way for them. So, and plus they look, it's a greatly. It's a phenomenally coached team, and I'm taking the Zags. Just that's an easier one for me. Of the 8 9s, I think that's probably the easiest decision for me. Yeah. McNeese versus Clemson, tough one. Will Wade obviously returning to his alma mater where he was a student manager. McNeese is not the same team as last year. Obviously, last year got the brakes blown off of them by Gonzaga after being a popular upset pick. They returned a lot of people from that team, brought back a lot of that scoring, and so it makes it really tough. I am going to take Clemson because the metrics kind of say that they will make the Sweet 16 based off just like various pace of play, things like that. But not pace of play, excuse me. It's like their offensive, defensive rating, and a few other things. And I am going to take them. It's a tough one, though. It's one I will lose sleep over. This is an easier one for me. I'm taking High Point. I've watched Purdue. I don't think they're that good. I think they're fine. I don't think they're great. That's about it. That's the best you'll get from them on me, I think. I think obviously they got guys like Trey Kaufman Wren, and they totally could go far, but I have been a big fan of High Point for a long time. Returned a lot of scoring from last year after the team barely missed the NCAA tournament, losing to Longwood in their conference tournament. What conference is that? Not the Sun Belt. I don't remember. But they also shoot the ball incredibly well, and I'm taking High Point. I'm taking High Point. It's tough. That's another tough one, but I like High Point in it. Illinois versus the winner of Texas Xavier. I'm taking the winner of Texas Xavier. I think Texas will probably win, and I'm probably going to take Texas. I don't think Illinois is all that good. I've seen that they're still ranked in top 25. I don't think they deserve that. They have not played up to the standard of other Big Ten teams who I think are even a little overrated. And I obviously we watched them against Duke. Duke beat them 110 to 67. Now, Texas or Xavier are no Duke, but I think that they talent-wise are better. I think it would be a lot closer for me if were to win, but I think Texas will win, and I think they'll pull that off. Rodney Terry, not a good coach, but Texas has the talent. They got guys like Caden Salter, Jordan Pope, and obviously Trey Johnson. They should be so much better on paper than they are. And so I think the talent they have could easily match up with Illinois, let alone like will match up, let alone beat them. So I think I'm gonna have Texas winning that one. It's raining really hard outside. I'm home, by the way. I'm not at school right now. I think hold on. This is bad podcast. I'm gonna go turn on a light. Oh, much better. Getting dark over here. Okay, moving on. Kentucky versus Troy. I'm going to take Kentucky. I don't think they'll lose another one to a 14 seed. It would be really funny if they did. Troy has the Sun Belt Player of the Year in, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. He's calling me. But hmm, it's tough. It's super tough. They'll lose back to back to 14 seeds. And I'm going to take Kentucky. We'll get into them in my second round because it's definitely a little different. UCLA, Utah State. I'm going to take UCLA on a hate reason because I've talked about go to USC. Either UCLA wins and I get 10 points, or they lose and I get to make fun of my friend Julian. So that's kind of a win-win for me, and I'm going to take them on that reason. If and I plus I'd feel dirty picking them, but I think they're better than Utah State. Tennessee versus Wofford, taking Tennessee. And that is the last, I didn't even realize it. Wait, that can't be right. Is that right? That is right. Okay, that's the last of the round of 64. Excuse me. We're going to scroll back up to the top and we're going to go for the round of 32. Like scroll back over this way anymore? Looks a little weird. Hold on. It's again bad podcasting. I'm just like trying to zoom this in and out. It's ridiculous. No, that looks bad. Whatever. Round of 32. Here we go. Auburn Louisville. I've gone back and forth on this one so much. And specifically for this, I might end up changing on my other brackets. Specifically for this, I'm taking Louisville. For my podcast bracket, I'm taking Louisville. I think that advantage you have in Lexington is huge. I think Auburn's form has been terrible, and I think Louisville was criminally underseeded. I think it is a storm of things that come together really well. Now, it's possible that Auburn blows them out, but I don't think so. And I'm going to take Louisville. I think Auburn will be that first one seed to fall. Maybe we'll see. And we'll get into that in a second. UCSD's Yale. You think UCSD is the better team? It's two mid-majors who I think just overall UCSD is overall better. Ole Miss, Iowa State, another really tough one. And I think if you ever hear me, if you're listening to the audio and you hear me break, it's because I'm drinking water. And I think I'm gonna take Iowa State. Now it's tough. It's tough. It's his name Darian Williams. Who is it? I'm forgetting the starter who's missing for Iowa State. It's tough. And I think I'm gonna have them probably exit the Sweet 16. It's really tough for me though. It's genuinely tough. But I'm gonna take Iowa State. Mm, yeah, Iowa State. Iowa State. Gotta roll with Olterberger. I've been a fan. New Mexico, Michigan State. This is an interesting one, and like I've said, Michigan State totally could lose second round. They could go to the Final Four. I'm not sure which one is which, and I'm going to take Michigan State. New Mexico, I kind of think they peter out of after the first round. I love Donovan Dent, but Michigan State's guards match up really well against them. Jaden Akins, what's his name? Oh, headband resembles Cassius Winston. I'm forgetting everybody's name. It's again poor podcasting. But I'm taking Michigan State. Once again, it's January, February, Izzo. That's how it is. Florida, UConn. I think Florida's a much better team. I'm taking that, and I think Danny Hurley is going home angry and frustrated. I think that guard trio that Florida has is way too good. and will propel them really far in the tournament. So I'm taking them for sure. Um, Colorado State, Maryland. I think Colorado State's luck ends here. I'm taking the Terps. Like I've said, best starting five in college basketball. Nothing much else to say about that. Drake, Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech's overall talent was a lot better than Missouri's, and I think they overpower Drake after a solid run they have. And yeah, I'm taking this. This is a very chalk. Is this the West region I'm making right now? This is a very chalk bracket for this one because I'm going to take St. John's. And I think that St. John's overall defense, all of that is much better than Arkansas's talent overall. And Arkansas hasn't really been able. Did they play each other earlier in the year? I might be misremembering. But I know obviously St. John's lost to Baylor, but it's a long time ago. So I'm taking St. John's. They've improved so much over the course of the year. They hit threes in the Big East Championship. So I'll take St. John's. Moving on to the East, Duke. That's all I have to say. Talent-wise, best team out there. Maybe Auburn's better, but talent-wise, this Duke team is so good. Now, the injuries have obviously been a bit of concern for the Blue Devils, but I think with Flag coming back, because he's going to play, he probably won't be 100%, at least not the first game, but he comes back and I think he'll show that why he's the best player in the country. Oregon, Arizona. I'm taking it Oregon. I was on the fence about Arizona in the first place, and I just think Dana Altman is a better coach. So I'm taking the Ducks. BYU, Wisconsin, really tough for me because I really, really like BYU, and they're so deep in their lineup. They go so far deep. But Wisconsin is the best scorer in the Big Ten, and John Tanji. God, it's tough. And it just feels like BYU could lose the first round super easily, while Wisconsin is a lot less likely. So for that reason, I'm taking BYU. Wisconsin, excuse me. Yeah. Nope. No, 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 no. BYU. I'm taking BYU. That their lineup is super solid. They rotate guys in and out really well. I'm taking the Cougars. St. Mary's, Alabama. St. Mary's meets this is no pace versus pace. Alabama's number one. St. Mary's is bottom 25, I think, maybe 30. And I think Alabama just boat races them, takes it easily. Houston Gonzaga. This is another really tough 1-8 that I've gone back and forth on a ton. And the statistics, the measurements say that Houston won't make it past the round of 32. Last year they defied that. It's a pace of play measure, basically. And last year they defied that by making the Sweet 16, but they were the first team in the KenPom era to do so. And this team is better. I think Gonzaga's coaching. Obviously, I love Kelvin Sampson as a coach. I think he's a great coach. I think Gonzaga gets rolling, and I think they make it past Houston. For that's probably the biggest upset we'll see. Because I don't think Auburn, Louisville will be as big an upset as people think. So I'm rolling with Gonzaga. This is, of course, by the way, take this with a grain of salt because I've shit on them all year, and this will be the year that their Sweet 16 drought, or excuse me, Sweet 16 streak ends. This will be like the first year that they lose in the first round. It'll happen. Just letting you all know. We're moving on. Clemson High Point, and I think overall Clemson's metrics, like I said, say they'll make the Sweet 16. It's a solid team, and I think they are better matched up against High Point than Purdue is, and I'm taking the Tigers. There's a solid little 8-5 matchup there. Xavier, I'm just predicting this will be Texas, but it's Texas versus Kentucky. Now these teams, I'm forgetting the exact matchup history they had. I want to say Kentucky won at least one, maybe two. I'm fact checking right now, but I kind of think that Kentucky, because of their defense, is going to bow out early. And it just feels like their defense it's like the same problem they've had for years, where their defense just can't solve things. Hold on, I'm finding this. So Texas beat them February 15th, and let's see the other matchup. Is that the only time they played? It was the only time they played. Give me Texas. It's hard to beat teams twice. I'm taking Texas over Kentucky though. UCLA, Tennessee, ugh, two detestable teams. I'm taking the Volunteers though. Much better than UCLA in my opinion. Not a great year for the Bruins. It's a fine year, not a great year. Louisville, UCSD, tough one for a lot of reasons. I'm gonna take Louisville. I think guys like Terrence Williams, Chucky Hepburn, ACC Defense Player of the Year, they'll be able to take them past a good San Diego State squad who kind of runs out of gas. Obviously, they would have, and I think this is Louisville, maybe the best team that UCSD will play. Michigan's good, obviously, but I think they're better than Yale, and I think Louisville will be the team that sends them home. Iowa State versus Michigan State, super tough for me. And I'm gonna take Michigan State because obviously Izzo's a phenomenal coach, and they're not really missing anyone injury wise. So I'm taking the Spartans. Florida, Maryland. This is so tough for me. The entire West bracket is so tough for me. If these four teams were in four different brackets, then this would be my final four. This would probably be a final four of mine. I'm not joking at all. And so it's so tough for me. They're so talented, both sides. And I'm gonna take Florida. I think they're overall more well-rounded. If something were to happen to Maryland, I'm not saying that will, but injuries, fatigue, any of that, Florida has the depth and the talent to continue up with it, and Maryland does not. They have the talent, they don't have the depth. I also think Florida has the coaching. It's so tough, though. I'm gonna take the Gators. I do have a bracket though where Maryland makes the finals because I think they are really that good. Just because of that starting lineup, and those matter in March. And like their four last losses were all on buzzer beaters. Like they're they're four. It's probably about a combined 10 seconds away from like a two seed. Like they're so like it's insane. I mean, obviously some of them were like tie games and all, but it's insane. Another tough one, St. John's, Texas Tech, and I'm gonna roll St. John's. Defense wins championships. I think that that's the right move. Texas Tech super talented, but St. John's it feels very much Team of Destiny-esque. And Patino obviously great coach, and I'm keeping with the Red Storm. In the East region, I talked about Oregon, I talked about Duke. This is a rematch from, what was it 2016? Dylan Brooks, Jordan Bell. Oregon was the number one overall seed. They beat Grayson Allen and Duke, who were the four seed. And I think they rewrite history, taking Duke. It's a talent thing. It's a lot of it's talent, not necessarily coaching. I think Shire's a great coach, but I do think Altman is one of the best coaches in the country. Always consistently, his teams perform in March. But I'm taking the Blue Devils. BYU, Alabama. God, it's tough. I almost want to go back and choose Wisconsin. I really do. I'm gonna do it. I'm doing Wisconsin because you're gonna watch. Wisconsin. And boom, I have Wisconsin beating Alabama. That is a really tough one. This is I'm not gonna touch this after I end this video, but it's so tough. And I think Alabama, their pace of play gets really helped, but they've showed cracks. Mark Sears has not been great shooting the ball. Obviously, at that clutch shot versus Auburn, but they have problems, and so is Wisconsin. They've showed that a lot, but I think Wisconsin will get the better of them on this circumstance. Moving on to the Midwest, Gonzaga and Clemson. My goodness, can't believe I got to this point. Am I seriously about to put Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 in the Elite Eight after dogging on them all year? Like that feels like such a curse to do that. Like I feel like I cannot do that. Just for like my own pride, I don't think I can do that. So I'm taking Clemson. I don't even think they're the better necessarily the best team, but I'm taking Clemson. And then I'm taking Tennessee over Xavier. I think Tennessee's a much better team, excuse me, than Texas. Uh, the Tennessee beat them up pretty decently in the not. I think they beat by 11 in the SEC tournament. Beat them also during the regular season. I think Tennessee's a better team than that. Louisville, Michigan State. I think Louisville's their underrated run, comes to an end here. Izzo takes over, sends him to March. I am a little hesitant on this though, because I saw a stat today from Ryan Hammer, college basketball content creator, who said that no two seed who started out the year unranked has ever made the Final Four, and that qualifies for Michigan State and St. John's. So I am hesitant to do this, but I think that's not like a real statistic is the thing. Like that's not based on any facts. That's just what's a fact, obviously, but it's not based on statistics. So I'm going to take Michigan State. The West, St. John's, Florida. I think St. John's comes. I just talked about Team Modesty. I think Florida, and they're not. It's not better coached, but I think their offense, their overall team is just so much better than St. John's, just because they can do offense and defense. So I'm taking the Gators. I think they're a better team. I love watching Will Richard play. obviously Patino's former player at Iona. Um, Duke, Wisconsin, taking Duke. Another talent thing, better talent, better coach, all that sort of stuff. I think flag, it's once again, it's a flag statement where he proves that he is the best player in the country. Then Clemson, Tennessee. It's a kind of boring Final Four that there's no way that this will end up like this, and then we'll probably have like another four seed or something like that. I'm taking Tennessee. There's just I cannot imagine Clemson makes the Final Four. So this is the Final Four we're at. Michigan State versus Florida and Duke versus Tennessee. And I'm taking Florida. I'm taking Florida. I think Izzo comes to a run end there, but the SEC champs have looked so good of recent. They've just looked so phenomenal. I just have to take them. I really do. So that's yeah, that's so tough for me though. We'll do that, and then I'm taking Duke. Tennessee, I think this will be the first year they get to the Final Four. I think that's right. I don't think they've ever made a Final Four. But overall, Duke, talent, all that sort of stuff takes over. And for the final, I am taking the Florida Gators. I think Florida is overall the best team. I'm gonna submit that. Let's see that. Let's look at this. Why is that? I want to see like the full screen. Whatever. But this is my final four: Michigan State versus Florida, Duke versus Tennessee, and I think Florida wins it all. Can't believe we're back here, Florida. It's crazy, but it's a great team. I don't know what to say other than that. Um, Sharing my I'm gonna want to copy this. I'll do that later. But that is gonna wrap up this episode. Do a lot of reactionary stuff to March Madness, all sorts of that good stuff. It's gonna be super fun later on. But that is going to be the episode for you guys. Now sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to end this. But that's gonna do it. Have a good one. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Goodbye.